Hi, I'm glad you chose to spend some time with me. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to my newest TBR game. But before that, I want to apologize for the terrible lighting and shadows. The place in our house where is located my desk makes it difficult for having a good lighting, especially when it is dark outside. It will have to do because I need to also have an overhead view, and the only place where I can film talking to you and the overhead is over here. I have created a TBR game. It is something I never thought I would do. I have always used readathons to pick my books, since I read mostly through the library, and that my wanting to read list is on Goodreads, and that I need a way to pick out the books I'm going to read. This month I'm quite an indecisive person. I did learned two things this year. We will talk about more things I learned in a future video, but for this TBR game, the two things I learned are: one, I incredibly liked playing the game with Louise back in November, Louise from Foxes and Fairy Tales. And in many of the readathons, you get to pick prompts. So like for the magical readathon, you pick a calling, you have a prompt for each class that your calling expects you to take. But in other readathons, like for example in a tbrathon by Leandra, the TBR 0, you have a lot of prompts where you just can pick from. And I noticed that when I'm doing that, I tend to pick out the prompts that or I immediately have a book in mind for, or the ones that seem easy to me. And I noticed that on my wanting to read list, a whole bunch of books do not get read because of that, because maybe I have to look a little bit further to find a book that works for a prompt and stuff like that, and I don't do that. So I wanted to find a way to get myself less picking the prompts that I tend to go to, and have more random prompts of the readathon, so that I am maybe reading the books that for now stay unread. And I found the perfect game to do that. It is Indian Summer by Use Rosenberg. I will link to the Amazon page of this game. It is one of my favorite games. It is very accessible. I have noticed whilst looking for those links that on Amazon for now, this game cannot be ordered. You could maybe find it somewhere else, but then you will not need this game to participate. Yes, I want everybody to be able to participate, because that's what I thought was very fun about the interactive side of it. And thus I reworked this game to have my TBR game. You will find a link to Google Drive in the description box, and this link will hold a lot of the printables that I made for this TBR game. For January, I will be participating in TBRathon by Leandra, the TBR 0, and I have chosen to do the TBR Explorer map. And so this is, you have a lot of prompts, and each will allow you to pick an element of a story that you're setting up. So you will have like a genre, a plot, your main character, some of the settings, and then also reviews. I think the easiest way to explain the TBR game to you is to give an example. I will go through the basic rules now, and then I will have a play of it, and during this play I will give more information about how things work, and then I will come back to you to create my TBR so that I can explain in an easier way to you how the TBR setting works. Don't worry, if something didn't reach you, you will find a document that explains it all also on the Google Drive. So in this game, we will have a board that we will call the soil, and there are 12 different ones, and they are both sided. And the idea is that during the YouTube live, we will find a randomized way. That may be an innocent hand, that may be a spinning wheel, that may be like the first one who shouts me out a number between 1 to 12, to pick this board. And what you will notice, I'll just take one. What you will notice on the printable is that it does not hold all these little treasures. No, I made you little treasure tokens that you have to cut out, and then during the live you can add those on your board. I will also try to provide in the Discord, there will be a Discord link down below, a forum in which I will post the board that we used, and also the tiles and the place of drawings, so that you can recap all this information of a live later. So the first thing we'll do is pick out the board that you will have printed out. You will place the tokens or the little treasures on it, following the card that we had. And then an innocent hand will draw tiles or blocks. We will call them blocks because they are like these Tetris shaped blocks, and we have a whole bag of them. But I took 3 out to show you. So we have green ones who always will fill up 3 squares. We have the orange yellowy ones that will always fill up 4. And we have red ones that will fill up 5. And of course, there are different shapes, and every color has their own unique shapes. This will have to be placed on the soil. So how do you place blocks? Inside the main grid. This is okay. This is not okay. A block can, of course, cross over between different sections. We have 6 sections, and each of these sections will represent a book. I tend to read around 10 books each month, and this year I will have 4 fixed books. More information on that in my reading journal setup. So the first tile we can place completely where we want. We could start in the middle of the board. The next tile will have to touch the first one. So I could do this or this. I could do this. This is fine. But I cannot do this. So no diagonal touching, only orthogonal touching. You have noticed that we have little holes in the tiles. To gain a treasure, we will have to have it peeking through a little hole. So in the printable version, I have situated these holes with black circles. There is several options. The most easy one is take like a hole puncher and make a hole. Even if it's small, you will still see that something is peeking through, and we can collect what's underneath after that. Or you can use the little treasures, and when you place the tile, come and place them on top of it. We will do that until the whole board is filled up. And there is one more restriction, and that is that we will have to have at least 6 blackberries. So on the board that I made, it's blackberries, because that's what we have in our forests. Blackberries peeking through. Why? Because these will represent our prompts. But let's not rush. We fill up this whole board, but you say to me, I wanted really to have this blackberry, and now I have a little 1 square that's over. Do not mind 1 squares. Well, maybe you want, but we don't have to fill, we know we can fill this up. There are no 1 tiles. So if this happens, at the end, we will take care of them. Try to not to have too much. You'll see later on why. But it can happen that on this board we end up, and you'll see that in my example, you will see that we might end up with a space that can not longer hold like a 4 or 5 tile squares block, and only 1 specific tile. Then we will go and look for it in the back. Each tile that is next to your board represent 100 pages. So we need to find out, but I think 100 is a good point. I never had more than 4. And that would add the obligation to make that one of the books that you read is falling in that amount of pages. So it's like roll a dice and read a book of 300 pages if you have a 3, a book of in the 400s if you have a 4. Instead of rolling a dice, count the tiles you didn't use. Each one represents 100 pages to be fitted in 1 book. Once that there's only 1 that you can put in, we pick it out, because that otherwise you could end up with all the back next to your board, and that's not the idea of it. Filled in, what will happen then is that we will have the board deciding on several rules for us to count a TBR. Each square we will count out the majority of color, and the colors will indicate what type of read you have to read. So for a square that's mostly red, you will read a physical book. Mostly yellow, it will be an audiobook. Mostly green, it will be an ebook. These rules are made for my reading habits and my reading goals. If you want to participate, but you have no e-reader and you will never get one, then change the rule. Pick something else, make it a genre or whatever suits you. And a mix or of the 3 or of 2 colors with a tie will meet. Pick whatever you want. Once we know of these 6 books, how many will be in which format, we will have a look at the open squares. Open squares will attract squirrels. Squirrels are very cute. In this game, there are many different, they're not all different, but there are a lot of different squirrels in there. And so I provided you with 2 cute squirrels to use for that. And each little squirrel that we add in means, to me, read an extra book, but read a small book, small tile, small block. So a manga, a comic, a graphic novel, a short story. Even if this short story is from a collection of 10, for example, read only 1. I made this rule because I tend to not like reading short story collections in one go, and I have a bunch of them with this nice collection that we have been collecting. But also I want to read more comics and graphic novels, and so to me, adding in a little book might stimulate to read that. Then once we have all that settled, we will have to count our treasures, and that will be important, since you can end up with quite a few squirrels, and that might make a too big of a TBR to you. But do not panic. We have, and it's acorns in the printable version, we have these little nuts. And squirrels, well, they love nuts. And if you have a squirrel and you have a nut, you can feed the nut to the squirrel. It's its only use, so don't hold on to them. They will not pass on to future games as well. Feed the nuts to the squirrels if you want to. And a fat squirrel is a happy squirrel, and a happy squirrel requires no reading. So you can choose with the amount of acorns you have to read less books. If you have like a bunch of manga you want to read and you feel you're up to it, you don't have to feed them, but you can. We also have mushrooms that will help us by reducing maybe the amount of books. Mushrooms, there are 3 of them in the game, will let us stack up books. For me, well, since I have 4 fixed reads each month, a mushroom will allow me to pick one of those reads if it fits one of my prompts, instead of having my innocent hand. So let's start again with the mushrooms. A mushroom for me will mean that I can take one of my 4 fixed books and add it, if it fits of course, as one of these 6. So instead of having 10 books, I maybe will have 9. I can imagine that not all people have she's cute, isn't she? Have a number of fixed books each month, so you could make up your own rule for that. And if you have no idea what rule you could make, I suggest to you that it is a book that you did not buy, a book you borrowed from the library that was gifted to you, a book that a friend passed on to you, maybe also a book that is included in a subscription, and by which I mean, like you pay for having Kindle, you can buy books on Kindle, but you have Kindle included books, read a Kindle included books. Maybe you want to consider to allow a book that you didn't have to count for the prompt anyway. But make a rule that simplifies your choices or your reading. Then we are also left with this feather. We know that the blackberries are prompts. The feather, there's only one. And a feather will allow to select in your prompt, but I will explain that later on. So once the board is full, we count the formats we are reading in, we count if we can stack up, and then we draw, for each berry, we draw 1 prompt. And I have made little prompt cards, and you can see that I have made 3 stacks. So all these prompts are the prompts from Leandra's TBR Explorer game. And you will see that they are double. So basically you have this and the other side is next to it. You can cut them out and stick them together. It will make the card a little bit thicker, so you can easily pick it up and it will maybe not get torn or something like that very easily. We can have 2 different situations. The first one is I have picked the minimum of 6 prompts, and then each prompt will have to go to one of the 6 books that we have covered on the soil, but in whatever order. So maybe I have a physical book here and I will pair it with the 6 prompts that I drew. That's totally fine. If I have more than 6 books and only 6 prompts, then all the other books, or I can go draw extra prompts if I wish so, or I can just read whatever, because I think that for the little squirrels it will not always be easy to find a specific prompt in it. We can also end up with more prompts than books, and in that case, or we have no feather and we just pick the 6 for the amount of prompts that we need. For example, I have 6 books, I have 7 or 8 prompts. I pick the first 6 prompts that I have drawn and the other ones, no luck. Or I have a feather, and the feather will allow me to take all of these prompts and pick the ones that I really want to read for. That is the basic game. Then we have a few add-ons. One is that my innocent hand on the live show will pick out one of the animal tiles. They all have a unique form. And if you're able, whilst playing, to make this form with the holes on your board, you gain an extra feather. But now you ask me, you're talking about putting these blocks on the soil and having it interactive, but I don't see how this is going to happen. So let me come to that. My innocent hand will draw tiles, and you have 3 options. Or you say, I don't feel like printing something out. I'm just going to watch along, and I am going to go with the same TBR rules as the ones that come out for me. That's not quite the intention though, but you could make that choice. The main idea is that you don't put your tiles in a bag, you just spread them open, and for each tile that my innocent hand picks, you take the same one, but you play it the way you want to play it on the board. So this will mean that you will end up with your own sets of gained treasures, and also with maybe more or less open spaces, and maybe you will fill it up without having to look for the last tile, or maybe you will have to draw a few more tiles because you fill up in a more efficient way. You could also completely play this game by yourself. When we have made our TBR, you could use a printable that I made to share your TBR. Colossal. And you can share that in the Discord. At the end of the month, it's something you have to do for yourself. It's on your own honor system. You could check if you have won or lost the challenge. Winning would mean reading all the books you set out to read, and you will gain 1 extra acorn. This extra acorn, and I made 2 extra on the printable, you could use them directly in the next game, or you could take notes somewhere of how many you have and keep them and use them in another future game to reduce the amount of squirrels on your board. And maybe you got very lucky and you read more than the books that you set out to read. Then you can gain a second acorn. Losing would mean that you haven't read all those books, and that can happen. Maybe you got sick, maybe other things came up and you didn't read as much, or maybe some book took way more time than you expected, and that's fine. Leave those books on the TBR, and I need to explain how I do. So when I make my TBR, at the start of the month, I add all the books that I planned to read to my Storygraph. And I leave on there the books that I planned but did not read, unless if it's like I DNF'd the series and then I take them off. Or I thought I could get my hands on this book and I didn't. But books that I could read and that I didn't read, I let on there. And the idea is to not put them on your next TBR for the game. I'm speaking for this game. So if this book is on there, but you manage to read it outside of anything else, then you gain a mushroom for yourself. So it is to stimulate you to, and certainly myself, to not forget the books that I didn't got to read. I'm thinking, am I forgetting something? I don't think so. I think I explained it all. It took a long while. I will switch to a complete tabletop for the game. Here we are on tabletop view to play a game, and I have my innocent hand picking out the board we are going to use. We also need a special animal style in case we could gain an extra feather. Merin has picked this salamander one, which means we have to have 4 holes in a row. Merin will start to draw tiles that I will place on the board, starting wherever I want, and after that connecting the tiles in the orthogonal way. I try to have as many treasures as possible gained by placing the little holes of the tiles on the spots where there are treasures. It's important to keep in mind that you need to collect at least 6 berries. Almost no empty squares left, and we only have one of 3 squares that can fit one specific tile, so we go look for it. I fill up the leftover squares with some cute squirrels. I'm counting the treasures I gained by taking the tokens. Let's check if we gained an extra feather. I knew I didn't, but Merin wanted to check it anyway. I gained enough acorns to feed all my squirrels. No extra books for me this month. Let's draw the prompts. I've got 6 of them. I divided the prompts in 3 stacks since they each represent another aspect of the game board that Leandra prepared. I did not make the prompts for the genre of the story since I will use fantasy because I want to fit it in the Magical Readathon character story. For that I will be reading a fantasy in my fixed books. And I also didn't put in the prompts for the rating your story gets. I couldn't make sure that I would read like the 1-star book if I drew that prompt. So I will go with the highest rating that I give out during January. Counting how many squares of each color I have in every book section to find out how many ebooks, audiobooks and physical books I will have to include in my TBR. Let's take note of all this information on my TBR spread so that I can easily plan out the books I'm going to read. I'll fill in the prompts on the right side and I will be adding the books or the prompts for them for my fixed books or my priorities to the left side in a moment. This is the last part of this video, and in this part I will be going over the different prompts and how I use them to create my TBR for January, and thus also listing out of all of the books that I'm planning to read. For my fixed reads, I will start with them. I have to read the second part of, and I need to have a look, of the Dragon Heaven by Robin Hobb. It is a second book in the Rainwild Chronicles, and I will be reading La Décrue, which is in French, the second part of this book. So I will repeat it once more. In French, all the books of Robin Hobb are divided into 2 or even 3 books per volume in English. For the map of stories, for the first weekend of it in January, I need to read a book with an historical setting and with a person on the cover. All the books I read, I have seen on YouTube, so I will not mention the needs to be recommended by a YouTuber. I will be reading a French-only book, which is called La folle destinée des Kerdelec, which is by Aurore Delcourt. And Aurore Delcourt is the author, the real name of the author that writes also under A.D. Martel, from which I'm reading Le Secret du Faucon. For the Connection Challenge of the 52 Book Club, I have 2 prompts. Those are read any book, and read a book of which the title shares a word with the title of the first book. I will be reading for that Dragons Autumn Twilight by Margaret Weiss. The second book I am going to read that will have the word dragon in common is Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons. On that site, maybe you noticed I didn't fill in audiobooks under priorities. That's because I had to go look up. And I only have 2 audiobooks in priority this month. And that is Le Secret du Faucon 5 by A.D. Martel. That is the last one in the first cycle. And the second one is Of Deeds Most Valiant by Sarah K.L. Wilson. It's a book that I found in the Audible Included books. And it appears that it will go out of the included section at the midst of January. So this will probably be the first audiobook I listen to because I was really interested in this standalone fantasy novel. For the prompts, I had a book with dark magic, and I had to go look up what is exactly meant with dark magic. And I found 2 definitions for it. One is magic that implies demons or necromancy that is used to harm people. And then also magic that might do good, but that will take something from the people who use it, that might have an influence that they don't want, that is harmful for the user. And I have put in there, with the help of one of the 2 mushrooms that I got, the La Décrue de Robin Hobb. And it will be quite difficult to explain why, because it is like the second part of the second book in the 4th series of the saga, and it's all connected. But just say that there is one character that uses some type of magic to make sure that people or other people wants to serve them, wants to do as they ask. And this is harmful maybe for the human that is being set under this spell, or the being that is set under this spell. And so I think this is dark magic. The second prompt I got was a book with a red cover. And for that, I have picked out this book, and it is called Le Jardin Féerique, or apparently it is collecting 2 works. It is Flower Fairies of the Spring and Flower Fairies of the Winter by Cicely Marie Barker. It's from the collection, and it has a deep red cover. I would like to read it because I think it looks stunning. It is more like poetry-esque. It has like a little text that goes with a specific fairy. I'm very curious to see how this is going to read. For a fate or prophecy related book, I will read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo, how do you pronounce that? Ishiguro. I have heard about it not that long ago, and it sounds very interesting. It is listed on Goodreads as a book about faith. For the prompt with a number in the cover, on the cover, I will be reading Le Secret du Faucon 5 by Ade Martel. And since it is not a fixed book, it's not of one of the challenges, I can use it without using my second mushroom. The next prompt I got is a book with a yellow cover, and I will be reading the Dragon's Autumn Twilight by Margaret Weiss for that, which will use my second mushroom. The English version has a more darker cover, but the French one has a very yellow goldish glow on it. So I will count that for that. That leaves me with one more prompt, which is a book with a book on the cover. And I also still need to include an audiobook. And for that, I will be listening to The Haunted Bookshop, the first in the series, by Shindo Maru. It is a Japanese light novel. I hope that I will be able to read them all. If you want to see how I'm doing, follow my channel and watch my January carousels, and then my January journal update at the end of the month to find out if I read for all these prompts and if I earn my extra acorns or not. See you soon!